No other animal on this planet does what you did the last time something truly hurt. Not one lion, not one dolphin, not one chimpanzee, our closest living relative. Never. Not one. You are the only animal on Earth that cries from emotion. And scientists still don't know exactly why. But here's what they do know. Tears are not weakness, and not some accident of evolution. They are a weapon, one of the most precise nature has ever built. You use it every time you're overwhelmed by feeling, without knowing you're using it at all. In this video, 3 things. Why humans developed tears in the first place, what they chemically do to the brain of the person standing next to you, and something that completely changes the way you understand that moment, the one where tears come and you don't know where from. Every mammal on Earth cries. Kittens, baby elephants, infant chimpanzees. But they cry with sound. They scream, yelp, wail, and mothers come running. That reflex was wired into the nervous system 200 million years ago. An acoustic distress signal that works in darkness, through walls, across 300 meters. And it works so well that a mother rat will dart toward the cry of a kitten, a different species, a different litter entirely. The brain doesn't ask whose offspring it is, it just responds. Evolution made that sound almost impossible to ignore. Then, in one species, something changed. In 2018, Asmir Gurchanin from the University of Rijeka and Professor Ad Vingerhoets from Tilburg University published a review of all existing evidence on emotional tears. Their conclusion was unambiguous. Producing tears in response to emotion is a universal and uniquely human behavior, documented across all cultures, all eras, all continents. There are stories of crying elephants, gorillas, horses. Scientists checked every one, and not a single case has been confirmed. The liquid around an elephant's eyes is gland secretion. Normal physiology, nothing to do with grief. A gorilla named Coco, who knew sign language, signed sad after her kitten died. Her eyes were dry. Only you cry when you're in pain. About 6 million years ago, our ancestors started walking upright, and that changed where the face pointed. A 4-legged animal looks down, toward the ground. Its tears, if it had them, would run unnoticed, down the snout, into the dirt. But an upright human stands facing the group, eyes open, at the same level as everyone else's. Everything that appears on that face is visible to all of them at once. Tears became public. Have you ever watched someone cry while standing right in front of you? A tear catches the light. It glints. On a bare face, it's visible from several meters away, even at dusk. On a 4-legged animal, that same drop would vanish into fur. On a bare-faced, upright creature, it became the most visible signal a body can send, without movement, without sound. And that created an evolutionary pressure no other creature on the planet had ever faced. Vingerhoets proposed the hypothesis that is now the leading one. In the world of our ancestors, making noise was dangerous. A vocal cry attracts not only allies, it attracts predators. A tear works differently. It says, "I'm not okay," without a single sound, without giving away your position, only to the people who are already close. Picture the specific situation. Night in the savannah. Something is wrong. Crying out means telling the leopard exactly where you are. Staying silent means leaving the group unaware that you need help. One tear on your cheek solves both problems. It tells the people at the fire, "Help me," and tells no one else within a kilometer. Vingerhoets stated his position plainly. The link between our capacity to cry and our ultra-social skills, that is my central hypothesis. Here is a detail almost nobody talks about. In 2011, neuroscientist Noam Sobel at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel posted an advertisement. Volunteers needed who cry easily. Only women responded. It's hard to get men to volunteer to cry in a lab, Sobel said afterward. 2 women sat in a dark room and watched a scene from the 1979 film The Champ, the moment a boy weeps over the body of his dying father, a boxer. Tears were collected into vials, 1 milliliter at a time. They had to be fresh, no more than 2 hours old. Frozen wouldn't work. Then those vials were held under the noses of 24 men. The men couldn't smell a difference. The tears smelled exactly like saline, which is to say, like nothing.
But their testosterone dropped, their sexual arousal fell, and MRI scans showed a dimming of activity in the brain regions tied to arousal. No odor, no awareness. Molecules entered through the nose and rewired someone else's brain. Sobel didn't stop there. In 2023, his doctoral student Shani Agron published the next study in PLOS Biology. This time, they tested aggression directly. Men sniffed either tears or saline, then played a game where one participant cheated and the other decided whether to retaliate. The men who had sniffed tears were 43.7% less aggressive. Sobel summed it up in one sentence: you are protecting yourself when you are vulnerable. Think about this carefully. When you hug someone who is crying, your nose ends up centimeters from their eyes. You press your cheek to their wet cheek. You inhale.
No one taught you to do this. You do it every time because the body knows the distance at which the signal works. Sobel noted the same pattern in another context. We constantly bring our hands to our faces after contact with other people and sniff them without realizing it. The chemical language runs quietly, at the distance of touch, and you use it every single day. In 1872, Charles Darwin wrote a book about the expression of emotions, the first serious scientific attempt at the subject. He observed crying, measured facial muscles, asked people across the world how they expressed grief. And he concluded, emotional tears are a side effect of the muscular contraction around the eyes during crying. He wrote, word for word, as meaningless as the tears from a blow on the outside of the eye. For 150 years, that sentence lived as truth. He had no MRI, no gas chromatography, no vials of fresh tears from a dark room in Rehovot.
He could measure a muscle contraction, but not a testosterone drop in a man on the other side of the room. He saw anatomy, function he could not measure. In 2008, psychologist Lauren Bilsma at the University of Pittsburgh collected more than 5,000 crying episodes from people across 35 countries, the largest data set on tears in the history of science. Her question was simple: do people feel better after crying? The answer was unexpected. Crying improved mood, but only when another person was present who responded, nodded, held them, said something. Without a social response, no relief. Crying alone sometimes made things worse. Tears don't work in an empty room. They work at the distance of an embrace. Adult humans are the only mammals that cry for the entire length of their lives. A kitten grows up and stops calling out. A chimpanzee grows up and falls silent at separation. An adult gorilla who has lost her infant will carry the body for days, but there will be no tears. Adult women cry between 4 and 5 times a month, men between 0 and 1. Across studies covering more than 7,000 people in 37 countries, all cultures cry without exception. Less often in Nigeria, more often in the Netherlands, but everywhere. Why would an adult preserve a signal that disappears in every other mammal by the time they're grown? You are standing at a funeral. You're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. It doesn't matter. You're standing among people and you're crying. You're not calling for your mother. You're not asking for food. But the signal is the same one you sent in the first days of your life. I'm here. I need someone close. A foal stands up within an hour of being born. A human infant can't lift its own head for months. It needs years before it can find food, and decades before it's truly independent. No other creature remains so helpless for so long. The mechanism that keeps people close to one another had to work for an entire lifetime, not just in childhood. We built thousands of languages, alphabets, codes, protocols. But this one has no words, no grammar, no learning curve. It arrives before the first cry, works across borders and centuries, and activates in the observer's brain a chemistry that no sentence can reproduce. Darwin was wrong. Tears are not accidental. We cry because we need other people, because the body remembers. You cannot survive alone. No lion carries this through its entire life. Only us. Darwin said tears are meaningless. Science says the opposite. Subscribe and write what you think.